Hello everyone, this is Muhammad Wasim Khan, an instructor of your course, Human Resource Management. In today's lecture, we will talk about training and developing employees. This lecture has two parts. In the first part of the lecture, we will discuss training the employees. And in the second part of the lecture, we will discuss some management development programs. In this lecture, we will describe the basic training process. We will describe and illustrate how you would go about identifying training requirements. And we will explain how to differentiate between the problems you can fix with training and those you can't. And we will explain how to use 5 training techniques. Let's start with orienting and onboarding the new employees. Carefully selecting employees doesn't guarantee they will perform effectively. Even high potential employees can't do their jobs if they don't know what to do or how to do it. Making sure your employees do know what to do and how to do it is the purpose of the orientation and training. The human resources department usually designs the company's orientation and training programs, but the rubber hits the road with the supervisor. He or she does most of the day-to-day orienting and training. Every manager, therefore, needs to know how to orient and train employees. The training orientation content include information on employee benefits, the personal policies, the daily routine, company organization and operations, safety measures and regulations, and facilities tour. So we will discuss all of these points in the coming slides. Employee orientation or onboarding involves more than what most people realize. Employee orientation still provides new employees with the information they need to function, though it should also help new employees start getting emotionally attached to the firm. You can accomplish 4 things by orienting a new employees. The first one is to make the new employee feel welcome and at home and part of the team. And make sure the new employee has the basic information to function effectively, such as email access, personnel policies and benefits, and what the employer expects in terms of work behavior. Help the new employee understand the organization in a broad sense, like the past, present, culture, and strategies and vision of the future of a particular organization. And start the person on becoming socialized into the firm's culture, values, and ways of acting and doing things. In front of you on the screen, figure 8.1 show a sample of the new employee departmental orientation checklist. So this particular checklist actually show that what should be included in the employee departmental orientation. So please go through this sample and also try to Google or search some other orientation checklists that are present around the globe. The training process. So let's talk about the training process. Directly after orientation, a training should begin. And training means giving new or current employees the skills that they need to perform their jobs. This might mean showing new web designers the intricacies of your site, or a new salesman how to sell your firm's product, or new supervisors how to complete the firm's weekly payroll. It might involve simply having the current job holder explain the job to the new hire, or a multi-week training process including classroom or internet classes. So, training, what does training mean? That training is actually a process of teaching new employees the basic skills they need to perform their jobs. And the strategic context of training include, the performance management, like the process employers use to make sure employees are working toward organizational objectives or goals. Okay, and the training usually include the web-based training, or the distance learning based training, or the cross-cultural diversity training. We will try to explain these topics in some other topics in the coming slides. Okay, the training and development process include the needs analysis, in which we identify the job performance skills that are needed for a particular trainee, assess the prospective trainee skills, and to develop the objective. So this is the first one. The second thing is to, is the instructional design, like produce a training program content. Okay, produce the work book, or the exercise or activity or activities that may include in a particular training program. And then after that, what we need to do is to validate the training content that you have designed. Okay, and how actually we validate the how we sorry okay how we validate it. We validate it by presenting the training to a small representative audience, and they will give us their feedback, that what are actually the positive and the negatives of our presentation in our presentation. Implement the program is the next step, in which we actually train the targeted employee group. And after that, we evaluate our training program by assessing the program success or failure, and by getting the feedbacks from the trainees. The training program may include some of the most important things, and I would like to discuss each of them one by one. The first one is make the learning meaningful. Learners are always more motivated to learn something that has meaning for them. Therefore, at the start of training, provide a bird's eye view of the material that you are going to present. For example, show why it's important and provide an overview. Use a variety of familiar examples so that your training content become easy for the trainees. Organize the information so you can present it logically and in meaningful units. So organize it in a particular sequential order so everyone can easily understand it. Use the terms and concepts that are already familiar to trainees, and use as many visual aids as possible. Use visual aids like, or you can say animation type of things, so that the images, etc., so that the audience or the trainees can easily understand what you want to tell them. And the last point, which is actually not included in this slide, I would like to mention it here, is that create a perceived training needs in trainees' mind. Okay. Like for example, before the training, managers need to sit down and talk with the trainee about why they are enrolled in the class, what they are expected to learn, and how they can use it on the job. Okay. The next one is making skills transfer obvious and easy. So make it easy to transfer new skills and behaviors from the training side to the job side by maximizing the similarity between the training situation and the work situation. What we need to do is to maximize the similarity or minimize the differences between the training situation and the work situation, because it will help the trainees to keep in mind their working situation, and they will practice the training content. So, okay, so this thing is very important. I mean that the training situation should not be different than the work situation. Um, Provide an adequate practice. Okay, practice activities are very important, and label or identify each feature of the machine or step in a particular process. Direct the trainee's attention to important aspects of the job. For example, if you are training a customer service representative to handle calls, so what we need to do is to explain the different types of calls he or she will encounter. Provide head-ups information. For example, supervisors often face stressful condition. You can reduce the negative impact of such events by letting supervisory trainees know they might occur. And the last one, which is not, present on this slide, I would like to introduce it here, is that trainees learn best at their own pace. So if possible, let them pace themselves. Okay, the next one is to motivate the learner. This is one of the most important thing. Um, you know, uh, Municipalities actually running drivers ed programs for traffic violators know there is often no better way to get a learner's attention than by presenting a terrifying filmed accident. The same is true in the schools and at work. Learning requires both ability and motivation, and the training programs, learning environments should take both into account. Okay, so motivating the learner is extremely important. People learn best by doing so. Provide as much realistic practice as possible, as we have discussed in the previous lecture, that the work situation and the training situation must be similar, so that the trainees learn easily. Trainees learn best when the trainers immediately reinforce correct responses. Yes, this is another important thing. Another one is trainees learn best at their own pace, as I have discussed in the previous slide, and create a perceived training need in the trainees' minds. Okay, this thing is extremely important, and the schedule is important too. Like the learning curve goes down late in the day, less than training. A full day training is most effective. So the schedule is extremely important. Usually the trainings are scheduled in the morning, like 8 uh, I would say 8 a.m. or 9 or 10 a.m., not late than 10 a.m. Okay, or tell and it actually the training is usually for 2 or 3 hours, so that the learner can easily get all the training content. Analyze the training needs. Yeah, this thing is very important. And particularly with lower level workers, it's common to hire inexperienced personnel and train them. Your aim here is to give these new employees the skills and knowledge they need to do the job. Task analysis is the detailed study of the job to determine what specific skills, for computer students, like Java, or interviewing in the case of supervisors. For task analysis, job descriptions and job specifications are essential. Okay, uh, the list these actually list the job specific duties and skills, which are the basic reference points in determining the training required. So managers can also uncover training needs by reviewing performance standards, performing the job, and questioning current job holders and their supervisors. Okay, so performance analysis, verifying that there is a performance deficiency and determining whether that deficiency should be corrected through training or through some other means, such as transferring the employees. So the task and performance analysis are very important. Some managers supplement the job description and specification with a task analysis record form. And actually, this consolidates information regarding tasks and skills in a form that is especially helpful for determining training requirements. So in front of you in table 8.1, we have a sample of the task analysis record form. So I would recommend you to go through this particular form, and also search some other task analysis record form on Google. This will help you to understand it more. Okay, let's move toward the trainings method. Our training method is actually is a technique which is used for implementing the training programs. With objectives set and the program designed and budgeted, you can turn to implementing the training program. And this means actually doing the training using one or more of the training methods we turn to now. We will start with simpler, low technological methods, and we will then proceed to computer-based ones. Let's start with the on-job training. On-the-job training means having a person learn a job by actually doing it. Every employee, from mailroom clerk to CEO, gets on-the-job training when he or she joins a firm. So in many firms, on-the-job training is the only training available. There are different types of on-the-job training. The most familiar on-the-job training is coaching or understudy method. Here, an experienced worker or the trainee supervisor trains the employee. This may involve simply acquiring skills by observing the supervisor, or having the supervisor or job expert show the new employee the ropes step by step. On-the-job training is actually a part of multifaceted training at the a particular company. So a job rotation is in which an employee move from job to job at planned intervals, and it is another a very important on the job training technique. Special assignments usually give lower level executives first-hand experience in working on actual problems. There are some advantages of the training methods, like inexpensive. This particular method is inexpensive, and we can get an immediate feedback using this particular method, and we can improve our training, and we can learn what actually a particular training need, what kind of skill actually or training a particular trainee needs. So that's why it is one of the most simple and effective type of the training. There are some steps in the on the job training. The first step is to prepare the learner. Yes, you have to prepare the learner, like put the learner at ease, explain why he or she is being taught, okay, create an interest and find out what the learner already knows about the job, and then explain the whole job and relate it to some job the worker already knows, and place the learner as close to the normal working position as possible. Familiarize the worker with equipment, with the materials or the tools and trade terms. Okay. The second step is to present the operation. And in this step include actually explain quantity and quality requirements, go through the job at the normal pace, go through the job at slow pace several times, explaining each step between the operations, explain the difficult terms or those in which errors are likely to be made. Again, go through the job at a slow pace several times and explain the key points. And at the end, have the learner explain the step as you go through the job at a slow pace. So these are some of the important points that are included in the second step, present the operation. The third step is to do a tryout. Yeah, and this tip include have the learner go through the job several times, slowly explaining each step to you. Correct mistakes, and if necessary, do some of the complicated steps the first few times. And run the job at the normal pace. Have the learner do the job, gradually building up skill and speed. And as soon as the learner demonstrates ability to do the job, let the work begin, but don't abandon him or her. Okay. The fourth step is to follow up, um, which include the first step is to the first point in this step is to designate to whom the learner should go for help. Okay, so you have to tell them that if they seek for help, so who is the person to which the learner will report or ask or go for the help, and gradually decrease supervision, checking work from time to time. And the third one is to correct faulty work patterns before they become a habit. Show why the method you suggest is superior. Okay, so you have to present some logical weaves about that particular method you have actually suggested, and complement the good work. Okay, encourage the worker, motivate him until he or she is able to meet the quality and quantity standards. Okay, so these were some of the most important steps in on the job training. Okay, another training method is apprenticeship training. Apprenticeship training is actually a process by which people become skilled workers, usually through a combination of formal learning and long-term on-the-job training. Um, it traditionally involves having the learner or apprentice study under the tutelage of a master craftsman. Okay. Um, the second one is another one is, I think, the informal learning. Informal learning, the majority of what employees learn on the job, they learn through informal means of performing their jobs on a daily basis. Yes, actually one of the point I would like to share with you is that the learner learn informally, okay, more as compared to the formal learning. So the informal learning of employees is actually more than the formal learning of those employees. So this is one of the most important things. That's why if you may have seen different trainers. They actually train the trainees in an informal way, okay, in somewhat informal way, because this is actually because most of the trainees actually learn faster informally as compared to the formal training. um, okay, job instruction training. uh, Many jobs or part of jobs consist of sequence of steps that one best learns step by step. Such step by step training is called job instruction training. And first, list the job's required steps, each in its proper sequence. Then list a corresponding key point beside each step, and the steps in such a job instruction training sheet show trainees what to do, and the key points show how it is to be done and why. Okay, so this is actually job instruction training method. Another method we can have, effective lectures, one of the most important method. And lecturing is a quick and simple way to present knowledge to large group of trainees, as when the sales force needs to learn a new product's features. Um, I would like to share some guidelines for presenting a lecture. That is, don't start out on the wrong foot. Okay. For instance, don't open with an irrelevant job. Speak only about what you know well, and give your listener signals. For example, if you have a list of items, start by saying something like, there are 4 reasons why the sales reports are necessary. The first one is blah blah blah, the second one is blah blah blah, and so on. And use anecdotes and stories to show rather than tell. Okay, so I would like to tell you one thing, that please use the visuals as much as possible, because the effect of visual on the training is more than the words. Okay, by be alert to your audience. Watch body language for negative signals like fidgeting. If they are not looking at you, they may be bored. Maintain eye contact with the audience, and make sure everyone in the room can hear. Repeat questions that you get from trainees. Control your hands. Leave them hanging naturally at your sides. Talk from notes rather than from a script. Okay, so write out notes on large index cards or on PowerPoint slides. Use these as an outline, like you can see on the screen that I'm actually presenting you points on the screen. Okay, so yes, you should also do this as a supervisor or as a trainer. um, so these were actually some of the points. Okay, I would like to discuss another important point here, that break a long talk into a series of short talks. Okay, long talks are usually boring. Okay, so what you need to do is to break that long talk into series of short talks. Speakers often give a short overview introduction and then spend the rest of a 1 hour presentation going point by point through their inner material. Experts suggest instead breaking the long talk into a series of 10-minute talks, each with its own introduction. Okay, so write brief PowerPoint slides and spend about a minute on each slide, uh, and that is actually more fruitful. Okay. um, okay, program learning is actually another tool. It is a systematic method for teaching job skills involved. Whether the medium is a textbook, PC, or the internet, program learning or program instruction is a step-by-step and self-learning method that consists of actually three basic parts. The first one is presenting questions, facts, or problems to the learner. The second is allowing the person to respond. And the third is providing feedback on the accuracy of answers with instructions on what to do next. Okay, so generally program learning presents actually facts and follow-up questions frame by frame. When the learner responds, subsequent frames provide feedback on the answer's accuracy. So what the next question is often depends on how the learner answers the previous question. The built-in feedback from the answers provide reinforcement. Program learning reduces training time. It also facilitates learning by letting trainees learn at their own pace, get immediate feedback, and reduce their risks of error. Some argue that trainees do not learn much more from programmed learning than from a textbook. Yet studies generally support program learning's effectiveness. A typical study focused on 40 second year and undergraduate students in an organic chemistry course. So some studied in a conventional lecture setting and others use program learning. Okay, and the researchers concluded that the findings suggest that program learning could be considered as a better alternative to conventional learning in teaching stereochemistry. Okay, now let's move toward the another training method, and that is the literacy training techniques, which include responses to functional illiteracy. Okay, like testing job candidates basic skills. So what we actually do here is to test the job candidates basic skills and setting up basic skills and literacy programs. Audiovisual training, yes, audiovisual based training is very an important method of training. Although increasingly replaced by web-based methods, audiovisual based training techniques like DVDs, films, PowerPoint, and audio tapes are still popular. I will give you the example of the Ford Motor Company. The Ford Motor Company uses videos in its dealer or training sessions to stimulate problems and reactions to various customer complaints. For example, consider using them in the following situations, like when there is a need to illustrate how to follow a certain sequence over time, such as when teaching machine repair. The stop action, instant replay, and fast or slow motion capabilities of audio visuals can be useful here. And when there is a need to show trainees events not easily demonstrable in live lectures, such as a visual tour of a factory. Okay. Okay, let's move toward the next training method, and that method is yeah, stimulated training, and we can also call it vestibule training. Uh, with vestibule training, trainees learn on the actual or stimulated equipment they will use on the job, but are trained off the job. Okay. This type of training is necessary when it is too costly or dangerous to train employees on the job. Putting new assembly line workers right to work could slow production, and when safety is a concern, as with pilots, stimulated training may be the only practical alternative. Okay, so yeah, so that was actually a stimulated or vestibule training method. Okay, and another one is the computer-based training, very important. Um, Computer-based training refers to the training methods that use interactive computer-based systems to increase knowledge or skills. For example, employers use computer-based training to teach employees safe methods for avoiding falls. Uh, Falls mean falling from from an elevated surface. The system lets the trainees replay the lessons and answer questions, and are especially effective when paired with actual practice under a trainer's watchful eye. Okay. It actually its advantages is to reduce the learning time, cost effectiveness, and yeah, cost effective. Okay, it is not very costly, and yeah, learning time is low as compared to other methods, and it has some instructional consistency. uh, Types of the computer-based training. The first one is intelligent tutoring system. The second one is interactive multimedia training. And the third one is VR training, like virtual reality training. So I want to go and explain each of these type of CPT. Okay. We will discuss it in in some in the other lecture, but I think for you this knowledge is enough for you regarding the computer based training. Okay, distance and internet based trainings include the teletraining. A trainer in a central location actually teach a group of employees at remote locations via a TV hookups. Okay, or we can say video conferencing. These things are very common nowadays. Video conferencing is very common. Interactively training employees who are geographically separated from each other or from the trainer via combination of audio and visual equipment. So audio or visual equipments are usually used, or the multimedia or etc. are using nowadays for video conferencing and training via the internet. Okay, so using the internet or proprietary internal intranets to facilitate computer-based training. So within the organization, usually this type of training is used. But I would say these three types of the trainings are very common nowadays, and different softwares like multimedias, or the Zoom, or Microsoft Teams, or some other or the Google Classroom, etc., or the Google Meet. These are some of the softwares, okay, that we can use for these type of the trainings nowadays. Okay, so I think that's it. That's enough for today. And in the next part of the lecture, we will talk about the management development programs. Um, so till then, thank you and bye bye.